Hey everybody, it's Mr. Delusia with the weekly Devblog. I've done a bit this week, mainly the gameplay, as I was saying last week. I completely overhauled how the gameplay works. I think I showed the screens off last week. But I guess I'll start with, I was going to start with the homing missiles. So I just log back out and back to, because I've changed again how the homing missiles work, because I also changed how the ship turning works. So if we go into, I've made the bullets aiming because I wanted to show that off as well. So now every bullet, whether it's a homing or not, has don't need to do that anymore. So now every bullet has a turn rate. So if you see here, it doesn't aim yet, but yeah, I've made the AI way too hard at the moment. But if you noticed in that short, quick clip, the bullets were tending towards the enemy. It wasn't exactly aiming, but that's because, some bullets, their move speed is too fast and I haven't put the turn rate high enough. So while, that gun was just a normal machine gun with the homing modifier. So I didn't want to make it completely aim at the enemy, to always snap to the enemy, because I think that would be pretty overpowered. But ones like this with the slower move speed, so if you can see that, now another thing you might notice is a lot of things have changed. So like now you can move wherever you want. I'll just pause it for a sec because that shooting is annoying, actually. So this is what I've been working on for past few days. I was fixing a lot of bugs because I've changed the gameplay big time. But yeah, as you can see here, there's different layer depths that was already built in. Now I've just made it. So if you notice, these images are going to change as well, because they were built just for the situation where you're moving only upward. But now, because you can move wherever you want, that will. So another thing you might notice is my ship isn't exactly aiming at the cursor anymore. So that's because all the ships now have a turn rate, and that's based on the engine. So the turn rate is based on the engine's turn rate divided by the ship mass. So the heavier the ship is, the slower it will turn. So this is a fairly light ship, so it will kind of turn. And that's one thing I really wanted to get in the game, and when I first tried it I couldn't figure it out, but doing the homing missiles and all the changes I've made to the homing missiles now, the ship worked the same way, so I figured it out. And another thing, so as you can see here, you can't dock. When you get in range of the planet, you can dock at that planet. So, which brings me to the next thing. You can now fly wherever you want. So as it was working before, you would start in your docked position, you'd undock, but you wouldn't be able to undock unless you selected your destination. That's changed. You don't need to select your destination anymore. You do, you just have to select it before you warp out. So if I try to warp out now, it won't do anything. But originally it was you select your destination prior to getting to the gameplay screen. Get to the gameplay screen, it sets your route. It says, alright, this is your first map. The warp field, I'll just warp so I can show it off and talk at the same time. So this is your first map, does this, and then it gets to the warp field, which is your second map, and then your destination becomes your third map, and after that you had to dock. But now you don't have to do any of that anymore, it's actual free roam. So as you can see, there's still a lot of things I have to change because I've made such a major change to the core gameplay. Yeah, I spent a lot of time just fixing bugs that came up. But yeah, this is what I really wanted to do anyway. So yeah, like if this was before, you'd have to dock at this warp gate. But you don't even have to dock at the warp gates anymore, because that was another thing you had to do, is you had to dock at the warp gate, select your next system you want to get to, and then undock, and then hyperwarp. So it was all these extra steps. So what I've done is I've removed that map only screen, which was the screen you get to when you dock, and you do it all here. So you don't, the only now, what's the word? The only compulsory thing is when you get to a warp gate, you have to select the system. So yeah, obviously there's still things I have to fix. So this is the only compulsory part of being in space. And the only reason I did this is because when you get to a warp gate, there's a condition for this map. So if you're at a warp gate, then the star map will display the galaxy map only, so that you can select the system. So let's say we fly to, let's go to one, haven't been, let's go to Tian. We hyperwarp. So no screen transitions, nothing, all handled there, a lot smoother. Then we warp to Tian. We don't even need to dock. We can get there, fly around if we want, go to the different planets before docking, even come back. So I've been last night testing a lot of the stuff, and there were a few conditions I missed, so I fixed all that. So it might hopefully not crash, but it might crash. I'm pretty sure it won't, because I've seen all the errors so far. So yeah, this again, the original system was that 3-screen transition type thing, but now it's unlimited, so you can free roam, you know, even on the map you're on, free roam wherever you want in the universe. The only, obviously, further down the track I'm limiting where you can warp to adjacent systems. So as you can see here, we're in Tian 1. So yeah, still, but I've done this just to show off. So this will take a little bit, it's not too hard. First I'm changing these images, and then they'll probably repeat. So when position gets to x-0, it goes over this side, etc. Up, down, so on. But yeah, now there's at least that feel of movement. So yeah, we could warp out here. If I try to click that, it won't warp. I have to select my destination. So let's go to Tian 4. Don't have to dock, don't have to do anything, just warp out. And let it go again. I'll put the volume back up. And yeah, so a lot smoother. And the good thing about now with this major change is I can remove half of the map classes, because when I built it, because of how the system, the gameplay system worked, I had a from map and a 2 map for every single location. Now all I need is just a, like, say this Tian 4 map. It's not a from, it's not a to. So yeah, a few still things I'm trying to figure out, like why the warp in instance didn't play just then. We could dock here if we want. Let's say we dock here. So we obviously won't have access to the ship hangar and all that, cargo bay, as you can see, but we can do the planetary building. We could buy some modules if we want. Tian wool, we got rare cyanobacteria, which sells for quite a bit. So this is a Griffin trade alliance. This is part of that faction, so we see Griffle stuff. Griffin selling cyanobacteria, so I can see. No. But yeah, so obviously, like, this might be a good, yeah, this is a pretty good planet to build some uncommon and rare miners. So let's say, this is not DSKFA. So yeah, let's leave this guy here. Still got to do planet surface stuff. But at the moment as well, is that the right? I didn't pay attention to the background. Let's just see something. Oh yeah. I guess I'll just rewatch the video at that part, see what the background was, because I'm remembering it was something different. So yeah, let's leave him there. When you dock, that's when it saves automatically. So that will be saved now at Tian 4. Let's go back to DSKFA and I can show off a battleship turn rate. And yeah, the last thing I'll show off is the AI, which is, yeah, pretty suicidal at the moment. It just flies right into you. So let's get the equilibrium. Oh, I already had Peacemaker. Alright, let's just actually all these conditions I've set, and this is just to make ship change easier. So yeah. So what you can do is, at the moment, I have to change this anyway, but you can select your destination here, launch, and it won't be set. So you actually have to do it here now. But as you can see, the turn rate's pretty slow. And yeah, those enemies will aim at you. Now another thing I'm trying to figure out is that because of the turn rate, when it finds its position, it actually bounces for a bit. And that's because of the code I've set in. And that's because of this, right? So if you look here, I'm at the back of the, so this is the front. This is probably the worst ship to show. But say the cursor's at the back of the ship turn will always try and find the shortest turn angle. So that's why it does this bouncing thing, because it bounces between the left of the cursor and the right of the cursor, and it's always repositioning itself. So let's fly to the asteroid belt. That's one thing I needed to test, so I may as well just do it as I'm recording. So yeah, that's with the turn rate. That's why it's doing that vibration type thing as well. The AI. So I've started building an AI system, and at the moment it's just aim at player, which is why they ran into the ship. But obviously that's not going to be what they do. When they get to a certain range, I'm going to build a avoid class and avoid method, and when their health is low, evade method. So yeah, this is the asteroid belt now. This is what I wanted to see. Yep, cursor aims at it. Alright, so yeah, originally as well, with the asteroid belt and say the war zone, is you could dock at these locations and it will dock at the closest planet. But now, because of the new, how the gameplay works now, you can't dock here. So you have to warp out. And yeah, so obviously there's still, because of the new AI, enemy AI, they do some funny things. Like all this I'm still figuring out, so I'm not figuring out, still just working on. It's not that much to figure out. So yeah, that's what I've been up to this week. Obviously existing things are still there. And I think that was everything I wanted to show off. And it likes that background for some reason. Showed off the homing. I'll show off the singular homing before these ships decide to run into me. Yeah, force of habit. So yeah, with these missiles, that's the best one to see. Yeah, it died too quick. So yeah, I mean, that was what I did this week. The plan for, last week, sorry, the plan for this week is to do more of that AI, fix a lot more of the gameplay, and yeah, just add more, because I'm trying to get the focus more on the gameplay screen now, which, as you saw, yeah, this last week was all about that. So yeah, get that gameplay pretty decent. So yeah guys, I'll leave this video at that. Hopefully you enjoyed this week's. I was pretty happy with what I did this week, so yeah, I was wanting to show all that. So anyway guys, hopefully see you next week.